Yo fans, welcome to the second interview with an EPW icon, this time FN Carnage. Later on in his career is known as Tyler Jacobs, but affectionately known in EPW as Carney. Following on from the success of the Dance and Lukey ones, we thought we'd get another EPW icon in, just to talk about the early days and the transfer through the last 10 years in Explosive Pro Wrestling. Carney, welcome.
Thank you.
You're an EPW original, an ECW original, but your relationship with the guys in EPW goes back a lot further than that. Tell us how you met them and how you got to be involved in ECW, as it were.
Basically started out with myself, David Storm, Zarius Blade, obviously all friends. We went to school together, so there was a bond there already. And then from there, obviously later on in life, I think I met Lukey. Obviously worked at the video store, and I got some videos from him. The wrestling fan, get to chat and stuff like that. And then same with Dave and that. And obviously we all came together and got into it, and we all, I think it was the WWA tour, went to that, started watching that and thinking, it's pretty good, it's pretty fun. The boys mentioned, hey, maybe we should do something about it, and sort of carried on from there.
You went to school with David Storm's wife?
No, I didn't go to his wife. Lukey went to school with his wife.
Gotcha.
So it was a different school. That was Gosnells. We were Thornley, so we're the upper class Gosnells.
Oh, is there a bit of like Bloods and Crips thing going on there?
Sort of, but not really. Not that bad. Gosnells. I think there's a few other people we know from Gosnells. I think Chris Weiss is from Gosnells, obviously. But
we won't hold that against.
No, exactly right. We all went to Thornley High School together, and obviously from there sort of came up through it and started watching wrestling together.
Started in the backyard. Obviously we heard about the backyard antics with Lukey in the last interview.
Yep.
We'll fast forward to the first awakening. You were the first guy out through the curtain.
Yep.
What was the feelings on that first day back in November 4, 2001?
I was nervous, as most of the guys were all day. Didn't know what to expect, didn't know how many people were going to be there. It's something we'd never done before in front of a large crowd. And then get told, hey, you're going out first, and I'm like, what do I do? What do I say? How do I act? I'd never done that before, so first thing that came to my head was a big mighty yell, come on, and then that was it. The crowd cheered, and I thought, it's pretty easy. After that, it was pretty easy.
Yeah. What do you remember of that first match with Justin Sane?
Some really bad wrestling. Oh God, it was awful.
Because for anyone that's had the unfortunate to sit down and actually watch Awakening back, we hold it in really high regard, but that's because we haven't actually seen it back in a very long time. I actually heard a rumour that Bobby and a few of the new first graduates of the Dynamite Factory sat down and watched it and absolutely took the piss out of it, which they were more than willing to do. But you had that first match with Justin Sane, and then it went on to Redemption in February afterwards, after the 2001 show, the Mikey injury. We talk about it in depth with Luke at the last show. But you were actually involved, the last interview, you were actually involved in the match, the four-way match.
Yep.
What happened? Talk us through what happened, and what happened when you were out there, and how you sort of felt that going on.
It's a weird one. We obviously have gone through the matches, going through the paces, we practiced it all before.
It's one of the things that you can't practice, that sort of stuff.
Look, we talked about it, and we said, he's going to do this, he's going to do one of them. Mikey's Mikey, like, he loves doing that sort of stuff. There's three of us there, it was one of those things, nothing could possibly go wrong. The three of us, what's the worst that could happen?
Nothing could possibly go wrong.
Yeah, exactly right. And then obviously, it's all sort of a blur when I'm trying to remember it. I remember most of the match and bits and pieces, and I remember going up there, and then I just sort of remember him jumping, landing on us, and then Dave was running to the back, and I didn't know what was going on. I'm thinking, what's happened? Is this part of the match? I can't remember going through this. And then sort of looking to see Mikey obviously on the floor and blood coming out, and I thought, oh Jesus Christ, what's going on here? So it was a weird feeling. It wasn't nice, obviously, but it's just one of those things. We obviously full of confidence back then. Not doing things the way we should have done it. That was it. I thought it was over. I thought we're done. Shortly. Yeah, exactly. I thought we were all done for, and I thought everyone's going to leave. No one's going to come see a show again. That's it. So after that, obviously things cooled down, and that's the next stage of the journey.
The whole story. It was a crazy thing because I was watching through the monitor backstage, and I rarely watch a show backstage. And I remember watching it and not seeing anything going on in the ring because the camera couldn't actually pick up what was happening on the outside. And I looked to my side, and Jimmy Payne's standing next to me. And he's kind of puffing and stuff, and I was like, hang on a second, like, you're supposed to be wrestling, like, what's going on? And Dave actually came through the curtain holding Mikey. Like, Mikey, still at being 16 years old, still a kind of big kid, and Dave like sort of walked him up the stage, and you know, we sort of saw the footage back later that night, and yeah, pretty rough looking stuff, but it led on to what is probably one of the best things that's happened to EPW, and that we got the hand extended from Adelaide and Cole Devani. You're actually part of the team that went over there originally to train with Cole Devani, Jagged Havoc. Talk us through just that whole time.
Yeah, it was a great experience, obviously. Found out about it, and I think it was David said, you know, we're going to go over to Adelaide, we're going to learn, you know, you want to come, and I was unsure at that stage of what was going on.
You weren't being paid, taking time off work.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, just started work really. I was pretty young back then, and then I thought, oh, you know, what am I going to do? And then obviously got the offer to go across, and I was like, oh, you know, I've got to take one of these things. You know, I enjoy doing it. It is fun, but you know, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it the right way. You know, had no idea what I was in store for. I thought, you know, I'll go over there, I'll do a couple of bumps, you know, power bombs, you know, the usual stuff that most people would think when they come in here. Yeah. And then, yeah, obviously got over there and got drilled really bad, and yeah.
Talk us through the day, because it wasn't just wrestling training, there was all like different facets to it that Cole kind of led you guys through. Talk us through a day of the training that Cole laid out for the guys.
I mean the whole thing itself was, I put it like, it was like a full-time job, so you know, we got up in the morning at like 6 in the morning, because you know, there was 6 of us over there, we're all sharing the same apartment. Everyone's got to have a shower, everyone's got to get ready, get breakfast, so you know, we get picked up at 8 o'clock.
When some of the guys shower, because I heard some of the guys probably...
Yeah, some of them didn't shower, you know, they're boys, that's what happens, but some of them took too long in the shower too, but that's another story. So what happened is, yeah, we get up, we get ready, we have a breakfast, Cole would come pick us up in the van, we go down to training, start the bumping, go through the motions there, do a bit of bumping in the morning, and then he'd take us to one or two places. We'd either go to the gym, doing weights training, or we go to Foxy's boxing, which was cardio. You know, Foxy's boxing. Foxy, for people that don't know Foxy, he was an ex-boxer, had his nose bitten off. He had this big chunk of his nose taken out. Yeah, part of his nose. He had this chunk just missing there from his nose. He talked about how someone had bitten it off, and he was really old school. Yeah. And he'd sit there and he'd call his old fat, you know, Watts, and he's got this little belly on him, and he's drinking his Coke, smoking his cigarette with the bars, like, oh, you useless, you're all slow. And, but he, you know, he really put us through our paces, and we really, you know, worked us really hard, which we all needed, you know. And obviously with that is where I sort of learnt how to drill our trainees and go through the motions with them. But after that, you know, Cole would pick us up, we go and have some lunch, and then we get back and go back and do some training again, go do the bumps, start bumping with all the guys from Adelaide, like your Jake and your Havocs, Tony Stones, all those sort of guys, Rocky Monero. And then we get home probably 10 o'clock at night, and that was it. And then you were done, like you were beaten up, and then get up again 6 o'clock the next day, go through the motions, and do it. We did it for, I think it was 5 weeks, you know, 6 days a week. We had one day off, which was a Sunday, which was a fun day. We go out and do something fun, but it was 6 days a week, you know, in which we got to wrestle on shows during that time. I think there was 4 shows that we did over there. But yeah, it was hard work. Like, it was definitely the hardest thing I've ever done.
You said that it really kind of set the tone for the training here at EPW. If it's not known, you and David Storm obviously ran the Dynamite Factory as the head trainers for years upon years. And it's really instilled, I mean, I think EPW is widely known in Australia, better or worse, as the hardest training federation in the country. And you said that really set the tone for how you were to train our guys. Tell us about what other things you really value in a trainee and how that really impacted you in your career.
I mean, a lot of people used to complain about, you know, it was too hard, too much cardio, but I mean, these are all the things we did while we were over there anyway. You know, these are the things that Cole put us through. And like I said, we weren't doing this, you know, for 3 hours on a night, you know, twice a week or something. This was every single day we were doing it. So, you know, we were just trying to put forward what we had learned and, you know, how we had bettered ourselves to these guys in that short amount of time. And, you know, for myself, Cole was a massive influence on how I trained. Like, he was hard as. Like, he would beat you up, he would twist you, grab you, and make you scream, and then keep going and going. But he had a way about it of, he wanted to make sure that you were here. He's old school, he's big time old school. And he wanted to make sure that you were right for it. You knew what was coming, and, you know, that you're not just some kid off the street
Yeah,
that's going to make a joke.
That if you're going to be let into this kind of inner sanctum, you're really going to earn it.
Oh, exactly right, and that's the way I treated it. I wanted guys to come. I didn't want Joe Bloggs to come in the street here and go, "This is easy." Came in, he's on a show the next week. I wanted guys to earn it. I wanted guys to push themselves, and I had moments where I'm like, I want guys to go, fuck you, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to do this, and that's a good thing. That's what I wanted. I wanted people that really wanted to be here, that really had the desire to be a wrestler, and those people that obviously did that stayed, and the people that didn't left.
We've, the Dynamite Factory sort of operates a little bit independently to EPW shows, there's been a lot of trainees come through the door and there's been a lot of trainees leave. Why do you think so many people start with EPW and then leave?
The first thing we ask when they come through the door is, do you want to be a pro wrestler? And they say yes. Are you going to do what it takes to be a pro wrestler? Yes.
They're all full of...
Oh, yeah, exactly right. They love it. Yep, we're going to do whatever it takes. We'll run 1,000 miles. We'll do whatever you want. We'll run up hills. A couple of days in, they're gone.
Yeah.
It's plain and simple. Some people have the desire to be wrestlers and some people don't. Some people want to be superstars but don't want to put in the hard yards. So they want all the fame but they don't want to do the hard work.
Yeah.
And that's as easy as I can put it. I don't think I don't think we pushed people too hard. Like, I think we pushed them to where we think they needed to be. And from there, the guys that stayed, came who they are now, and then the guys that left have gone elsewhere.
The reason that I say it works separately is that Davis and yourself always put in they always try to install in the trainees that if EPW stopped running shows, the Dynamite Factory would continue. And I suppose the question that was posed to these trainees was, would you continue being a wrestler and training to be a wrestler if you could be on shows? And I think the guys that are left in EPW and the guys that have come and gone, there's a very real answer to that question. The guys that have left didn't want to train to be wrestlers, they just wanted to be on shows. And they could do, 10 minutes down the road.
Exactly.
What's your thoughts on the other federations that have popped up since? And do they appreciate how hard it was for us to kick off?
I mean, without going into their actual...
Don't go into there.
Well, I don't know their training. Like, I don't know who trains and how they train and what they do. All I know is the guys that used to train with us, that jumped ship and went, well, we're going to go elsewhere because we can get on a show here. They might have been a year away or it might have been a week away. And there was a couple of guys I know that got real close but just couldn't hold on because they wanted to be superstars. Simple as that. There is some good talent out there. Like, I've seen a few of the shows now, and there is some really good guys out there who are training hard, and obviously people going overseas and getting training over there, bringing it back. No different to what we did when we first started training. We went to Adelaide and brought it back here. But in saying that, I still believe that we are the best, if not definitely in WA, but in Australia, at training and making wrestlers out of these guys. And like I said, there's the other feds. I do like some of their guys, and I know some of their guys work really hard.
They're not bad guys.
No, exactly right. Exactly. But I just think, like I said, for the guys that I know personally that have come through our door and couldn't handle it and then left and went elsewhere, they obviously didn't want to be a wrestler. They didn't go through the hard yards and learn from the very best. And we've got the very best. I mean, we've got world-class trainers now. And these guys all came through the same way that we put them through. Mike Nichols, Shane Hayes, Bobby Marshall, Marcus Pitt, all those sort of guys, all done this stuff, all got pushed hard, all probably had moments of thinking, oh yeah, I can't do this, and wanted to quit, but they kept going because they had the determination. The other guys obviously wanted to just be a superstar. That was it.
We've seen some good training. I mean, you mentioned a few of the guys that have come through the doors of the Dynamite Factory, in particular that initial graduating class, your Bobby Marshalls, your Shane Hayes, those kind of guys. What are some of the worst trainers that come through the door? Because there must have been some guys where you just look at them and you just think,
When we first started training, we didn't have tryouts. It was just training. You come along, see what it's like, and then we had tryouts. But before all that, there's a few that spring to mind. First one was I can't remember if we called him the White Whale. He came here. He was a big boy. I can't remember his name. He was a big boy, and as soon as he walked through the door, I was like, no, you won't last a day, buddy. And that, he probably was a nice guy and all that stuff, but you can just tell, we tell guys before they come to training, be prepared. Like, you're going to run, you're going to do cardio, don't rock up thinking it's going to be nothing. So he rocked up, I think Jag was on one of these ones. I think it might have been the same class that Marcus Pitt was in.
Yeah.
And so we're doing sit-ups, and everyone's, 1, 2, and then in the background you hear the 1, and he was probably getting that high off the ground, and then 2, so obviously we named him the White Whale.
The one that springs to mind for me, Hans Molman.
Oh, Hans Molman. Oh,
'Cause you're-
with his slick back hair.
You're known as a guy who, when they walk through the door, no disrespect to them, you don't bother learning their names, you just give them a nickname, and often that nickname has stuck through.
Yep. I mean, it's not that I'm really bad with names. Like, I forget names all the time, so if I see someone, Captain Greyshirt was a name, so, they're not very smart names. Hans Molman came about because he looked like Hans Molman. He had slick back hair, he was this little small man. Crabtree.
Terry Chappell.
Terry Chappell. God, he had some good stories.
Great stories.
Yeah, there was one guy who always have a good laugh. I think he lasted maybe a day, and his name was Rocky Figliomeni.
Right. How many?
Yeah, exactly right. It's spot on. Jag always says, he'd have the best catchphrase. He'd say, how many Figliomeni? Just some of the names.
So there was a trainee, and he's obviously still resting cards, but the name Muffins stuck with the guy. Tell us about how he got the nickname Muffins.
He's a big dude.
Yeah,
Okay, he was a massive dude when he came in. He's bigger now, but he was a big guy back then. But he came in all smiles, and he was very respectful, and he was just really nice. And we're like, you're the kind of guy that would go home and bake muffins for someone if you upset them. And so the next day he came in with obviously a batch of muffins, and then from there it sort of just stuck as Muffins is his name. But he looked like, at first he looked like this big dumb jock and that, and you think, okay, here we go. And he's just really nice guy, and the body didn't suit the personality, and it sort of just stuck from there.
Names like that really just evolve in EPW. One of the questions that we had off the Twitter is, talk us through an EPW training session. What can they expect if someone's thinking about training with EPW or thinking about joining the Dynamite Factory? What can they expect from when they walk through the door for a whole night of training?
The biggest thing is just obviously being ready to run, being ready to bump. Don't come in here expecting, to come in here, like I said before, doing power bombs and running the ropes and doing, swantons off the top rope. You're not going to do that. You're going to come here, you're going to run, we're going to see if you can hack it first, then you're going to bump, which, for anyone that hasn't bumped before, when you first start bumping, it's the worst thing in the world. Everything aches, you don't know what to expect. Trying to go over yourself itself is just one of the hardest things to comprehend.
For your mind to let yourself
exactly
go.
Right. Yeah, you've got to be able to just get past all that. But don't come in here expecting just to be able to breeze through it. There's very little people that come in here that are natural athletes and that can do it straight away.
Who's the best you've seen come through the door? From the word go.
Tommy Cartel was one of those guys. Spot on. He got it. He understood it.
Big dude.
Very big dude. Good size on him. Hated having his shirt on for some reason. A guy that big, why would you wear a shirt that's like down to your knees? Looks like you're wearing a dress. Exactly. But great wrestler. Understood wrestling. Very respectful. Like I said, a shame he dropped off and hasn't been seen. But yeah, got it straight away. Shane Hayes was another guy. I wouldn't say he got it straight away, but he was very athletic, and he can do things that no one else can do. So that part helped him. But when he came in, obviously, we have arguments about who was the cockiest out of him and Kyle when he came in. And a lot of people say Kyle was, and I reckon Kyle was a good one, and Shane was the cocky one. And everyone's like, no, Kyle was the cocky one, and then, But I think Kyle maybe got a little bit cockier later, and then Shane died down a bit. Kyle's not cocky at all now, but back then, I think they both thought, because they were both mates and obviously came in together with a few other guys, and they just, they thought they were the bee's knees and they were doing things, oh, look what I can do, and then I think they got shut down pretty fast.
Yeah. But they showed us in the end, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. No, never.
Going to that, what's your proudest achievement as the head trainer of VPW's Dynamite Factory?
Oh, obviously, like Shane and Mike going overseas and doing what they're doing now. Like Shane is the guy that came through, I think the first batch of guys, the Bobbies and all that. I mean, even Bobby and Devlin and all those guys that have gone really well in EPW, but obviously Shane's done amazing things overseas now and really made a name for himself. It's one of those things like, I never thought back in the day, hey, I'm going to train an actual superstar. I thought I'm going to train these guys to be wrestlers, and then they're going to. So for me, seeing him doing what he's doing is extremely proud. But also in saying that, some of the other guys like I said, Devlin Reeves, when he first started, he was unfit, out of shape, and was uncoordinated.
When he first started,
he had his moments. But he was one guy you looked at and you go, nah, he's not going to make it.
He was the guy that when he walked in, you'd say, get out.
Yeah, exactly right. You don't know what you're in for. And it took a while. It took a very long time for him to get. But he was one of these guys that just kept on going and going. And that's what I'm talking about when guys have determination. I mean, you don't have to be super fit, super athletes to do this. Like, we'll train you and we'll learn you. And, from there you can try and get a bit bigger and do all that sort of stuff. He's one guy we looked at and thought, nah, he's not going to last. And he just kept on pecking away, and he really wanted it. And one day just came in and was nailing everything, and we're like, where did that come from? Because yesterday you were, falling on your head, and, you couldn't do anything, and today so he got it. So it's really good to see guys like that. Obviously, he got a long way and became really popular in EPW. So Bobby Marshall was one of those guys, when he first came in, I seen him and I went, yeah, he's good. He'll do something good. And I was always pushing for him, like when he's having his first match. I don't think he was supposed to wrestle in his first match. I think it was the 4-way with Shane, CJL and Kyle.
Come up with the sign, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly right, yeah. And I was pushing him, like, you've got to put this kid in. Like, he is, out of all those guys at that time anyway, he was the best of the lot. And I thought, he's going to go quicker than any of these guys. And push, and obviously he got in and went from there, and he became EPW champion and did all that sort of stuff. And that was, for me, I was like, what? Happy to see I could see someone like that, and I knew he was going to go that far, just progress the way he did.
With the EPW training, do you think it goes hand in hand with just the way that these guys have grown up? Because they join EPW training, 17, 18. Do you think that there's things that they learn at EPW training can translate to their lives just away from wrestling? Determination, hard work.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, my biggest thing is respect. Like, because when they come in, a lot of them are young, 16, 17-year-old kids who are just, you want to slap around the head. And usually I did. But, hopefully these guys would learn a bit of respect, and obviously the hard work's going to pay off for things. And then going from there. I mean, I didn't really go into their personal lives. Like, I didn't even think about it, really. I just thought they'd come here, I'll train them to be better people, and from that, 17-year-old boys to men now, like, that's obviously come a long way.
Yeah. You're known as the locker room leader up until when you retired at Reawakening last year. What duties does that sort of hold? What does the job of the locker room leader basically?
I never really thought myself as the locker room leader, and probably until the last couple of years. Because then, you get the people come and asking questions, can you watch my match, can you tell me about this? And that's basically it, like, guys asking for your opinion on things, asking what they should do. Like I said, I hold EPW very high, and I want the very best for EPW, and that went with the training, obviously. Like, we didn't want the bad people in here, we wanted good, we didn't want cancer in here, we wanted good things in here. Whenever someone asks me something, I say, hey, look, this is what you should do. It's always for the best for EPW and what I think is going to help that. And hopefully motivate the guys and get the guys going, and make sure, if they're feeling down, say, hey, keep on trucking along and doing what you're doing, because, you're kicking goals some of the times.
There were times where they got a bit ahead of themselves and you had to rein them in as well. That comes with the job.
Oh, exactly right. I mean, it's like life. Like, you've got your boss and you get ahead of yourself. They're going to pull you back in and say, hey, start doing it properly, start behaving yourself. Same thing. Guys that think they were better than they were. You say, hey, look, it's not the way it is. This is how it is. And I'm very honest with the guys. Like, if their match stinks, I'll tell them it stinks. And I expect the same thing when I was wrestling. If my match was terrible, I'd expect them to say, hey, look, it wasn't your best match. This is what you did wrong. This is what you need. So I tried to do that with those guys and be very honest with them. some people didn't like it, some people did, but that's just, that's the way I am, and that's the way I prefer it. Like, there's no point in lying to someone saying, yeah, you had a great match, that was awesome, yeah, good work, and then they go out and keep doing what they're doing, because they're going to stink it up, and it's the EPW name, and that was the most important thing.
Yeah, good. So we talk about your wrestling career. Obviously, 10 years. You took the bumps. You were known as one of the most hardcore wrestlers we've had. In particular, the match with Lobo. He was an interstate wrestler from Melbourne. We only had seen videos of him, but he looked like a crazy son of a bitch. Scarred up, scars all over his head. What were you thinking when the guys who ran EPW came to you and said, we're going to pair you up with Lobo?
I'd seen him earlier at the Super Show.
That's right, yeah.
The first Super Show, and yeah, you're right. He looked crazy. He looked mad, and some of the stuff he was doing, I was like, Jesus, And when I found out I was wrestling, I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to keep up with this guy who's been wrestling a long time? I don't know. I think it was 10 years for him or something like that at that time. I'm like, how am I going to keep up with him? What am I going to do? Am I going to try and have to up him one, or am I going to? And it's weird because in EPW you get time to chat to guys and get ideas for your matches and all that sort of stuff go through. And that was the first instance for me where the guy's flying in that day, and I'm talking to him. I think it was Evolution 2 nights. So Friday night I had a little chat to him and stuff. I remember the one thing he said to me is like, because we were setting up the whole end of Friday night, he's like, I'm going to come out, I'm going to chop you and stuff. He goes, just be careful because they're really hard. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I can take shots, buddy. It's no worries. So going through it all, talking, and then we get out there and we're doing it, and then he lines me up for the first chop, and I was oh yeah, okay, it was a bit hard. And the second chop, I thought, Jesus Christ, what have I got myself into? And so he hit me a third time, and I dropped and rolled. I'm not taking it. I'm getting out of here. Because he was like, oh, I'm going to just keep lining you up and hitting you. I'm like, yeah, go for it, buddy. Like, help yourself, all right? Yeah. Third one, dropped, rolled. I was out. I was like, no, I'm not taking that. Ran backstage. I was supposed to stay on the stage as well. So I ran backstage, and he's talking to me. I thought, oh, geez, I better get back out there. So went out there and then got home. Didn't say do it at wrestling. Got home and I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, bread.
Because he's like the spiritual leader of the Melbourne Pack.
Oh, yeah,
a group of guys who were sort of going at the same time we were, and it was really important for us that we wanted to show Lobo that we were as good as his guys back in Melbourne, and you were basically carrying that torch for us. Some of the ideas that he had, guardrails, thumbtacks, all that sort of stuff, what are you thinking when in 15 minutes time your back's going to be landing on this canvas with pins in it?
The tacks were probably the one where I was just like, oh Jesus. And I talked to Jag and Havoc because they were there as well, and because they'd done all that sort of stuff before, and I'm like, what's it like? And they're like, it's, I don't know if they were trying to scare me, they're like, it's, pretty daunting, and, you'll feel and stuff, and I'm like, oh, Jesus. That was the one thing that was on my mind, I think, the whole match. Everything else was fine. Yeah.
Some of those bumps are sickening. I remember our backdrop over the ropes to the guardrail, and the guardrail like nearly snaps in half.
Yeah, I mean, all that sort of stuff was fine, and it's one of those things, it's still in the back of your mind, but the most scariest thing's here, and that's the main thing, because it's coming. So the guardrail did it, and that was easy, did the concrete bumps. The concrete bumps were off the stage. Like, that was one I was like, what am I going to do?
Toss, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a hip toss off the stage. Because at first when we're going through it, he was like, oh, maybe you can, throw me off the stage. I'm like, sweet, no worries. And then he's walking, he's like, no, I'll throw you off the stage. And I'm like, oh, okay, sure thing, buddy. So we did it, and I landed, and I'm like, wow, that was awesome. That was nothing. But then again, I was like, right, the tacks are going to be coming up soon. So going through it, build up to the tacks, got up on the rope, and I'm like, Jesus, here we go. I'm going to be in pain.
So what, just thinking, he's obviously, was he up there at the time?
He put me up on the rope. So he set the table out. I put the table out, and I put the tacks on, and I put him up on the ropes. And then so we got up there, and I can't remember if he did it to me, or I think he did it to me. Worked our way around where he picked me up and gave me a back suplex through the table with the tacks on there. And I remember hitting and going, that's not that bad, eh?
Really?
That's not as bad as I think, because I'd built it up so much.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is going to be painful, and I hit it, and I'm like, it's not that bad. I mean, don't get me wrong. Afterwards, the next day, I was sore, and I had holes all over my body. But I hit it, and I'm just like, well, I could do that again. And I think that from there is sort of where it spawned the whole hardcore thing for me. But I also remember, I had to get dragged out, and then I had to come back out, and Devlin Reeves, who was part of the Brat Pack then, just joined, they were dragging me out, and he was picking pins out of my thing, and I'm like, just leave them. And he was like, oh God, and you can hear them, and he was like, why did you say leave them? I'm like, because I couldn't feel them. I think the adrenaline was going as well, obviously. But yeah, it's just one of those things. There's a lot of things like that in wrestling where you go, like you think that's one of those things like the pole driver. When I was training, that was the one thing I was scared of. I'm like, I'm never taking a pole driver. Yeah, I'm never taking it. I'm never taking it. And I think I told someone in Adelaide, which was a stupid idea. I think it was Blase. It was B unit. It was Blase, and he was a strong boy. You know, he wasn't massive, but he was a very strong boy. So he's like, oh, I'll do it. Or, you know, just do this and walk me through what it was. And I remember him getting me up there, and I reckon I was quivering. I was shaking. I'm like, this, I'm going to break my neck. I'm going to be going home and a helicopter to the hospital. And it didn't hit, and I'm like, jeez, that was pretty good. Like that was, and that's with wrestling. Obviously, is everything like protecting and looking after each other. So it was just one of those things that I think the illusion was shattered for me then. That was where it all broke.
Well, you talk about, like, you did the thumbtacks where it wasn't that bad, did the pile driver wasn't that bad. Were there times where you weren't building it up, and there were times where you just sort of hit the move or took the move and thought, that was that bad?
I took the exact same move at Reawakening that year from the stage, which was a hit toss from David Storm. And I was like, oh, I'll do this because it's easy, I've done it before. And I hit it, and I just went, that was the worst idea I think I've ever had. And that was early on.
Yeah.
Because that hurt so much, and I think, what did I do different to what I did then? There's been a couple of things where I've hurt myself, but not to the point where I've gone, oh, that's too much, I can't handle it, or, you know. When I'm doing these matches, I always make sure I'm doing things I know I can do and I can handle. Like, if I don't think I can do it, I won't do it. Simple as that. And, you know, if someone says we should do it, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. Like, I don't feel comfortable. So there's never been any one of those sort of moments where I'm like, nah, this is not cool. I mean, in saying that, the one thing that springs to mind, I had a hardcore match with Bobby, and the same thing. It was a repeated move I was doing.
This is Maylands?
Yes, it was Maylands. This is the street fight. I think it was Evolution Night 1 too as well.
It's a bloodthirsty event, that Evolution.
Yeah, exactly right. It was the powerbomb onto the trolley.
Yeah.
And I'd done it with the Don when it was the Union versus the Brat Pack. I think the year before or something like that, a couple of years before. And I remember he did it first. That was one of those ones I was like, this may hurt, it might not. I'll just have to, depends how I land. And I landed, and I'm like, that was really good. So I said to Bob, hey, do it again, you know, it's really easy. And I remember getting up there, and for some reason just twisting my body like this, and put my arm down. And I just landed awkwardly on my arm, and just thought, I think I broke my arm. Like, I'm done for. Yeah. It was just, if you ever see the clip again, you'll see me. I'll just turn ever so slightly and put my arm down just to protect myself for some reason instead of going through what I should have done. Yeah. And it just hurt, and I thought that was just a stupid idea. There's been some other ideas where I've thought, we'll do this, and got halfway through and I thought, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
You know, there was one, I think, with Havoc, where I was going to do the balcony fall through the tables. We were going to stack some tables up. When I had the match with Havoc, me and Havoc was just having a hardcore match.
Okay, yeah. Was it in Adelaide or in Perth?
No, it was over here. Okay. It was at Venville.
Yeah. The balcony, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So we were walking through it before, and everyone was sort of looking, going,
I can remember actually, yeah.
What are they going to do? Like, and we had all this other stuff, and I mean, I love wrestling. Havoc's one of my idols. I was watching, like, I loved watching him wrestle. His style, everything about him was really cool. He's just a big, mean dude. So I was super excited to do all this stuff and have this killer match with him. So we had it all set up, and we were going to do this big bump off the balcony. He was going to throw me off through all these stacked tables, and I thought, okay, it's going to be bad, but you know, I'll get through it. And I remember halfway through the match, we did this, I think it was a side Russian off the side of the apron through a table.
Yeah.
Smashed my head, and I'm like, not doing it. Straight away, I rolled over and I said, I'm not doing it, buddy. I would do something else, powerbomb through some tables, throw me off the ladder, I don't care. I'm not going off of there because I'm out. So there's one of those things where just halfway through, I'm like, no.
I always, like, having like the wrestling background that I had as well, I always think that the ones that you back out of like that, where you have the moment of clarity during the match, if you had gone through with it, I think they're the ones that you really seriously could injure yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And think about it now, like,
because you know what's going to work and what's not going to.
Oh, exactly right. I mean, for me, it was more of I wanted a big pop for it, and I wanted a massive ending, and that would be huge. You know, it hadn't been. I think Mikey had done his moonsault over there, and I thought I've got to try and, because that was the one thing with EPW. A lot of guys, we try and one up each other. You know, we want to make it better. We want to make it more exciting. And I was up there, and I'm like, oh yeah, it could work. And then halfway through the match, when I hit my head, I'm like, no, this is not going to happen.
You spoke about your love of watching Havoc wrestle, and how important are Jag and Havoc to EPW and to yourself in particular?
Obviously, if it wasn't for them, obviously, I don't think EPW would be where they are today. yeah, massive influences. Like I said, I was a massive Havoc fan. Like just the way he went about his wrestling, and he was a big dude, and he knew what he was. You know, he didn't try and do moonsaults off the top, although I think he could have.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he did maybe once. He's done some crazy stuff. But yeah, they were very important, and obviously coming through when we were just starting out, and they were the big interstaters. And I think it was Evolution, the one with the logo. I think they both came out one day, and there was a whole bunch of them. There might have been me, Mikey, Brad, Davis.
It was a talking trash.
There we go. And I remember everyone just sort of, their music played, and everyone stopped and looked at them, and we went, Jesus, they look like wrestlers. What are we doing?
There was about 8 of us in the ring, so we're all in kind of twos, and we all kind of turn each other and go, fuck, look how big Jag and Havoc are. I remember that distinct.
And Jag wasn't, I mean, he was big, but he wasn't as big as he is now. Like, you look back and you think, geez, he was small there, but to us, he was this massive dude. And I think a lot of the guys looked up to them, obviously, and wanted to impress them. Our fans loved them, obviously, at the beginning of EPW. I reckon they were the main things that they come to see. But like I said, we wanted to make sure that EPW was the best going around, and if it wasn't for them, that wouldn't have happened. And they helped with us coming to shows and helping out and all that stuff, and any problems we had, we'd ask them, and they'd help us out and stuff like that. So
10 years, it's a long career. What's the best match you've had? I know it's tough to kind of, because we can ask you what your favourite child is, because you have one child in Thailand.
That's right.
But what is your favourite match?
I'm trying to think. There's a few that spring to mind. Obviously, the logo one was big, and I think that's the one that got me over the most, and people recognise me as.
And it was so important from a federation point of view.
Exactly right. But as far as my favourite match, one of them definitely. Obviously, everyone has a different opinion of wrestling and what their favourite matches were. Mine was a match with Brad West at one of the Reawakenings. I think it was the one where he won the Invitational Tournament. Brad's a really easy guy to work with. Doesn't do anything super flashy.
Or anything flashy at all.
That too. Doesn't do anything dangerous. Always looks after you. And I think me and Brad gelled really well together. And I just had a fun match. And I have watched it back a few times. I'm like, it was a really good, clean match. Made sense, got him over, because it was building up between, obviously, him trying to chase the title and all that sort of caper. And that's probably one of my favourites early on. Again, I've got so many, like, anything with David Storm, like, same thing. Always gel really well with him. He's one of these guys I can go in there without really talking to him. We just put something together.
And there's probably 10 guys on the Federation that could say that.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly, and that just shows how good he is. My last match was probably one of my favourites as well.
Talk us through the build up to that. Obviously, you had told us months earlier that you were going to be finishing up at Reawakening. Yep. You ploughed, it was almost like that lit a fire into you. You just ploughed through everyone leading up to the title match at Reawakening, the biggest match ever, pretty much. I mean, the title match at Reawakening, it doesn't get any bigger for EPW guys. What were you thinking in the lead up to that match?
I mean, I knew long before that I was retiring. I'd always said Reawakening 10 was going to be my last one. Especially, I went out a couple of years earlier with hurt my knee and had some time off. It was just, I think at that stage I was burnt out and I was over it, and I think I had 9 months off, but I obviously missed wrestling from there. Thought I'm going to go back and I'm going to make a real go of this, and I thought, well, if I set myself a date, then at least I can have a go at it. So right then I was like, right, Reawakening 10 is definitely going to be my last, and I just burned through it, and it got to that year, and I think I told Dave I think I told him early on, and then as we went along, a few other people found out, and then obviously a couple of months in, I said to everyone, hey, look, I'm calling it quits. But yeah, exactly right. Like, I didn't think I was going to be in that main event at the end of the year. I think it was a hardcore champ at the beginning. I had the match with Chase at the Reawakening before, and I thought I'll just go through the motions and do this and finish off, and maybe get, I'll ask for someone and see if I can get that match. And as it went along, Dave Storm retiring and stuff like that, I was like, oh geez, who's going to fill the void? And then, a couple of people said, hey, look, you should probably be doing that, filling that void, and I thought, okay, I'll do that. And then, just from there, sort of kept going, got some dream matches in there, got to wrestle Mikey again. I hadn't wrestled in years and years. I got to wrestle, I think earlier in the year, I wrestled Alex Kingston. Really fun match to have. especially because it was hardcore, and that was my thing. And I think that was the thing as well. They gave me all these hardcore matches for the year. That was my style. That was the thing I was known for, and I thought, well, I can go out like that. I did not think I'd be wrestling the main event of Reawakening.
Yep.
And when I found out, I was just like, I don't know if that's the right idea. Like, it's the biggest show of the year.
You were pretty vocal about not wanting to, and that's just the selflessness that we've come to expect from you over the 10 years. But you pretty much said, I don't want to be the main event. I don't think I, should go out like that.
Yeah, I didn't want it to be
But it was
all
the right
about
thing
me.
in the end.
Yeah, I still question it, but I didn't want it to be about me. I wanted it to be about EPW.
But you are EPW.
Yeah. But I still thought, I didn't want David Storm to retire when he did it. I wanted him to go all the way to Reawakening 10. Would have been great to wrestle him at Reawakening as the last match for the pair of us. But obviously he left it a little too early. And then from there, just sort of started building up, finding out who was wrestling, and then I think as we got towards the end, because Marcus Pitt, great wrestler and really, like I said, really respectful. Love wrestling him. He's one of these guys that I can wrestle, will listen to you, will throw ideas out at you, but he's always respectful about it. And he's not, he doesn't get over the top, and he doesn't think he's a superstar. He knows who he is. But he's, especially with me, he's extremely respectful of me, and I really like that.
Tell us about the day, like Reawakening 10. There was a lot of old faces there from our past 10 years, and that's really, for us being two guys who started out together, that was such a fun day to see these old faces. Guys, you had Shiggins. Hadn't seen these guys for 8 years, but you knew in the back of your mind it was going to be the last time that you're going to be out in the ring in front of the crowd. What sort of emotions are going through your?
I didn't, because everyone was asking me beforehand, what are you going to do afterwards? Are you going to keep going with this? Are you going to do something? And I was like, I don't want to think about it. Like, I just want to get through the match. I want to finish with a good match. I want to finish on a high and just get it out. So I wasn't nervous because the person I was in there with, I had complete faith in, and we talked about stuff beforehand. Went, this is what we're doing. I was really happy with it. So I wasn't nervous, but I think maybe a second before, probably 5 seconds before I went out, you had the people watching you and saying good luck, and I turned around and pretty much everyone was there. And for me, I was just like, wow, this is big. Because I wasn't building up. I didn't want to build up. I hate building up massive matches because then you start to get worried. But just that 5 seconds before, when I looked behind and I seen everyone there, and they're all...
And there was everyone there.
Yeah, absolutely. There was everyone there, and I just thought, Jesus, this is massive. And I didn't want to build it up. And when I got out there, it's the same thing as most of my matches. I get that little anticipation, and when you're out there, it's gone. Yeah. Because the adrenaline's hit, you're in the mode, bang, you go and do your thing, and then you go behind the curtain. So I wasn't nervous, but just that little brief moment, I thought, geez, is this bigger than I think it is? And it was a massive match, and I'm extremely happy with it.
Any regrets, just finally, because these interviews just get away from us, but I think we've been talking for at least over half an hour now. Any regrets of the past 10 years? Any unfinished business as well?
There's no regrets, I suppose. I've done everything I can. There's a few guys I wish I could have wrestled. I was lucky enough to go over to Melbourne and wrestle against Lex and Carlo just this year, beginning of this year. There's a few guys like I've always wanted to wrestle someone like a Crackerjack or a Jonah Rock, especially J Rock. Love his work. Massive fan.
He's my favourite Australian wrestler.
He is just one of those guys where I'm like, man, me and him could have done some things, hey, and we could have tore the building down. Literally tore it down and just used it. Besides that, I don't have any regrets. I'm happy with the way I train people. I'm happy with the way people came up and learned how to wrestle and obviously become superstars that they are today. And I'm happy I made friends out of it and got some lifelong friends now.
I think that everyone involved in EPW owes you a debt of gratitude, especially for the way that you've trained them and the way that you've instilled not just the wrestling side of things, but the young men that you've helped to kind of grow into men, basically. So everyone owes you a debt of gratitude. Who would you like to see sitting in this chair next to you? Who do you think has a story to tell that EPW fans need to hear?
First names that pop into head. There's two names that pop into my mind. Actually, probably three names. David Storm, obviously, same as me. Started at the same time, finished up almost at the same time, seen a lot of things. Slick Rick Sanders, the guy that was obviously my manager for a very long time. Same thing, he's seen a lot of things and probably done a lot of things and said a lot of things. I think think he would be fantastic on here to throw some of those hand grenades you're talking about. You know, just for some shits and giggles, Bobby Marshall, because he's very vocal.
He's very.
He likes to say some
He
things.
does like to. Well, thank you very much, Carney. It's been a pleasure sitting down with you and just reminiscing about the past 10 years. But fans, if you guys want to see someone sitting in the hot seat, to hear their backstory, to hear how they have helped to shape the EBW, hit us up on the Twitter, hit us up on the Facebook page. But thank you very much for watching.